What is good, everybody? Welcome into the Bluebloods official podcast of FCS Football Central on SI. I'm your host, Zach McKinnell, joined today by a very special guest, Hampton head coach Trenton Boykin. Coach, how we feeling today?
I'm excited. We got spring ball starts tomorrow, so we get a chance to get on the field and right now we've been 9 weeks of lifting and training and running, and so now they kind of get to do football. So we're excited about tomorrow. So it's good. We're kind of just getting all the little nicks and crannies out of kind of how everything will be done. But no, we're excited. Get a chance to kind of put this thing together and see who kind of shows us some things and see who maybe didn't play last year and trained hard and put on some good weight and see if there's some competition going on at some levels as well. So we'll see how this thing goes. You get 15 days to kind of work on some things from last year and put some things together for this year.
Coach, head coaching jobs are hard to come by, right? And you can't always, you never know when your opportunity is going to show up. Yours came in a very unconventional way, right?
Yes.
April, you're an assistant, you've been around Hampton, they come to you, coach, you're going to be the intern for a year. It's time to get ready. We got Morgan State week one, who was supposed to be one of the breakout programs in the MEAC, right? Not an easy game at all. How hectic was it for you from April till you guys kicked off on August 31st?
It was some. I can't say it wasn't. Because now you're looking at it from a head coach's perspective, when before you were looking at it as an assistant. I think some things that helped is I had been a head coach before, and so in your room you're always taught, hey, you need to be the head coach of the room that you're in, and so you kind of do that. I think with the fact that I knew the majority of the guys on the team already, that helped because we had already been around each other. The coaching staff stayed intact, so there were some things that kind of made it a little more easy transition because you had coaches that were already here with you. You had players. I would probably say 90% of the guys were already on the team, so that part helped. But again, until you actually sit in that chair, you really don't always get a full grasp of it. So it's great to have guys on the staff that were have been head coaches too and been coordinators. So it made it an easy transition for that. But again, putting you get the job on May the 1st, and then the guys are gone by May the 9th. And so nobody's here until they come back till June 9th. So, you're trying to get that done. We're trying to put a camp together. You're trying to get recruiting because we're in the process of recruiting. So you had a lot of stuff going on. And like I said, it was great to have um, a coaching staff that really could help ease into that.
How much more comfortable do you feel this year at this time compared to last year? And just how far do you think this program has progressed in the year under your tutelage as a head coach?
Oh, I think it's and again, I still tell people I still haven't been the head coach a year yet. But no, I think you're starting to see our footprint on this program. You've been able to kind of implement, your style of play, build a foundation, build a culture. So yeah, you've had a chance now to kind of get an idea of where you want this program to go. And so we've had a good chance of kind of molding that, and getting us to kind of put our cliche on where we want this program to go. So, I still think, again, like I said, I still haven't, this is my first spring. People don't even, it's still my first spring. I wasn't even the head coach for spring. So, we're still, how do I want to approach spring and what do I want to get done in spring ball? So, we're in that mode of, hey, I'm still trying to put my footprint on this program, but I think from where we started last May to now, you do kind of see the kind of young men that we want to recruit here, and what we want to establish here.
I think when you look at the DNA of a breakout program, right, as a prognosticator, as national media, we always try to tell people, man, this team's on the rise. Watch out, that they're due for a breakout season. You guys had so many close losses last year by one score. How big were those learning experiences? Now, obviously, you want to win those games, right? But that's huge for your team to learn how to win in close games. How important were those close losses to going into this year, knowing how to close out games and win those close games against a very, very talented conference like the CAA?
I think that's what we're going to do this spring is put ourselves in those exact situations where, hey, this was the scenario in the fourth quarter. This is what took place. How do you get over that hump and those things? So again, for us, I think our guys. I loved it how they fought. They hung in with each other, no finger pointing, great attitude on the sideline, poise. And again, I talk about our coaches. If we show poise and calmness, they'll show poise and calmness. So, but the thing that we'll definitely look at this spring is, hey, here's scenarios from those games. How do we now incorporate that into spring practice to say, hey, it's I know for a fact, we're going to work some red zone red zone situations where, man, it was it was 1st and 10 at the 25. These were the 4 plays in that sequence. And how do we now make that first down where we didn't the last time? How do we hang on? I know one of them, it was a catch and hit and fumble and that kind of, and so again, ball security, every day in practice of, hey, this was an important part of the game and this is what happened. So again, I think those are great learning experiences. We just don't want to duplicate those things this coming season. But again, it's something that you can work on this spring.
The last time you were a head coach, it was at Lane at the D2 level, spent 2 seasons there. How different is it now, right? Because coach, just going back to 2021, right? College football is so different. How
Yes.
different is it being a head coach in 2024, 2025 than it was in 08, 09?
Lot. A lot. You didn't have the transfer portal, didn't exist. I was a young coach still trying to figure out, my way of how I wanted to do things. Scholarship wise, what do you have now? So it's so different compared to 2008 and what we were trying to get accomplished at that time, and where my mind was at, again, being a young coach. I don't know if I always looked at the small details of everything, and making sure, again, I think one thing you learn, to surround yourself with good people, and not that they were not good people, but not have an ego and saying, hey man, I don't know it all. And I want guys that have coordinator positions, have head coaches positions. And so that's kind of where I put myself now. Is I would say 90% of our coaches have been head coaches and been coordinators. And then again, the transfer portal is such a big piece now. And I think too, we're going to recruit high school young men. I think we really value that. I think you just kind of took it for granted, back then on, recruiting high school players. Now you really say, man, this is for us. This is going to be our lifeline. We're going to invest in high school players and get them here and develop them and get the most out of them.
You played at Youngstown State, and it's kind of building on what you were just talking about recruiting high school. Coach, when in the early 90s, you would have a year or two of development, right? You didn't come into the program as a freshman and Coach Tressel be like, we're going to go run out here with 10 freshmen and we're going to expect you guys to compete at the highest level. How hard is it to recruit a young man as a freshman, a 17, 18-year-old, and coach with the transfer portal? He might have to play 50, 60, 70 snaps a game or start where in the older age of college, well, that guy had a year or two to develop. How hard is it to get these freshmen ready to play and how much pressure are on them compared to the freshmen in the 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, I think I think a lot of them want it, because again, in their mind, okay, there could be something bigger out here, for me. So I think some of these young men, and again, you have to think, I came out of high school in 1990. They weren't, excuse me, we weren't training like these guys are now. We didn't have the personal trainers and the 7-on-7s and all those things that they have now. And so I think, in my mind, I think these guys are a little bit more developed probably than what we were, and that's why for us we didn't play, because we weren't lifting like these guys lift. We didn't have 7-on-7 like they had. We didn't have the personal trainers like they have. So I think a lot of these guys that are coming in have a chance to, maybe not like you were saying earlier, 50 or 60 snaps a game, but you can get 20, 25 snaps, out of a freshman right now and be okay. Because of the fact of what they're doing. I think about when I played, in high school, we didn't have a bunch of guys that were 280, 290 coming out of high school. Those guys were, and that's why you said they took a year and a half. They came in as a freshman, redshirt freshman year. Now they're playing their redshirt sophomore year because they were coming in at 255 pounds and had 2 years to grow. Now we're recruiting offensive linemen that are already 275, 280, 285 that, been in the weight room, been lifting, been training. And so, you could rotate an old lineman, freshman old lineman in now as a freshman because he's already 280 pounds. So, that's why I think we do a really good job of, hey, looking at these freshmen and then, their psyche and their mindset of kind of where they're at. And that's, like I said, a lot of them with the transfer portal now, a lot of these freshmen see, man, if I can go in and produce as a freshman, there's stuff out there, for me that, okay, you didn't take me as a freshman because you didn't think I was ready. I go to FCS program, play 20, 25 snaps a game as a freshman, play well enough. Now you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe he can play. And so, I think we do a good job of, hey, what's their mindset? Coming in as a freshman and coach, I want to come in and play, and we've got some freshmen that come in now that'll come in this year and they look like they've been in the college weight room for the last 2.5, 3 years.
Because roster evaluation's huge, right? And you every November, December, depending on when your season ends, you go in and you're like, okay, we got to get better here, here, and here if we're really going to compete for a conference title, which is the ultimate goal, make the FCS playoffs. Were there any positional rooms where you and your staff looked at after last season and was like, we really got to raise the floor and or push the ceiling higher in this room?
I think, especially in this conference, your O line and D line. I think you just have to keep growing in that area. As much as you, I mean, we were number one in the rushing offense. 2 years in a row, but you still say we could be a little bit better. We could be a little bit stronger. We need to be a little bit deeper at that position. So I think for us, those two positions are positions where I think you have to evaluate it and keep growing constantly. And I say that also, those are the two positions that are getting plucked the most also. And so as you look at the portal, what guys are getting plucked? O-line and D-lineman. And so you have to continuously get those positions looked at. And not that they don't look at others, but everybody wants the O-lineman. Everybody wants the already made D-lineman. And so you constantly have to have guys on the board because you're looking at your own guys and going, he may end up leaving us because he's playing. And so we better have a plan for somebody coming in and taking him. And so, those are the two positions that we probably talk about the most on a consistent basis. Hey, O-line, D-line.
You mentioned that, and my co-host on our live shows is the assistant head coach down at Alcorn State. So he talks about that all the time. Those hard conversations after the season, because coach, it happens, right? You have a breakout player, they come to you in this new world of NIL, coach. We got to have a conversation, right? My friend who I played high school with at Florida, and he's making,
Yeah,
500,000 potentially, something like that. How
right.
hard are those conversations to have as an FCS program where we know, and especially in HBCU, where we know the resources aren't the same as some of these other programs that are paying top dollar for these guys?
Yes, it's tough, because you try to lay out a plan. What's the positives, what's the negatives of where you're trying to go, what are you trying to get accomplished, where are you at, are you 3 years left, or you got 1 year left, um you know do you know for sure you're going to start, it's a new head coach, they're going to be bringing in a bunch of guys also. So it's a tough conversation because each guy is just so much different. What, again, like I said, what year is he? He's got 1 year left. He's got 3 years left. The money that they may throw out, and some of it is just like I can't compete with it at all. And so, but you still ask, hey, have you weighed all the pros and cons of, what you're trying to get accomplished? Because, at the same time, this is not a friendly world. And, you may think, yeah, this is good. And for, like you said, for some of these schools, to give a kid $40,000, that's nothing to them. And so, yeah, you think, oh man, I'm getting $40,000, and that's, man, I can take care of my family and all this stuff. But they also gave 7 other O linemen $40,000, and so now, was that $40,000 worth it? I don't know. Especially where you are in your career. If you got 1 year left and you get there and you're like, wow, I was just a starter for 2 years here at Hampton, and then now I'm at this place, and now I'm not even playing. Is that what you wanted to do your last year, is go somewhere and not play? Compared to, okay, you're a freshman, they give you $40,000, and you're like, yeah, but I still have 3 more years to play. So it's, I'm telling you, it's a revolving door of kind of the conversations you have, because they're all so uniquely different.
Coach, just the last few questions. You played at Youngstown State and you won. You were part of one of the best dynasties, right, in FCS history at Youngstown State. Looking back at your time there, what separated Youngstown State from some of the other programs, and what was just the DNA behind the scenes that made that run so special?
Um, we as guys that played there, we said we were misfits. A lot of guys that you know, had the ability to play, maybe at a higher level, but, you know, was too short here, a step too slow there. Guys played out of a guy that was a quarterback, moved to wide receiver, guy was a running back, moved to DB, guy was a tight end, moved to tackle, guy was a D lineman, moved to O lineman. So some of that, but then just the culture that Coach Tress built there. Guys knew each other, and again, a lot of the stuff that we do here is similar. You always play harder for people that you care about and you know about. And that was something that he always stressed. We all knew where we grew up. We all knew the high schools that we were at. There was something that, man, I know where he's from. I know what he's about. And when you play with guys that you care about and know about, it just brings something different. Um, the 100-mile radius, same thing here that we try to do with our guys is, you know, we play with a chip on our shoulder because most of us were from within a 100-mile radius of Youngstown. You know, same thing we're trying to build here. Most of the guys that we're going to recruit are within a 100-mile radius, of this place. And so a lot of guys played with each other or against each other or know each other. And then you have a common goal that, hey, it's us versus, everybody else. That's what we had, hey, it was Ohio versus everybody. Now here it's like, it's the DMV, North Carolina versus everybody else. Hey, we got great football here. That's how we felt. Hey, Ohio has the best football. We want that same attitude here. Hey, Virginia, the DMV has the best high school football. And so you walk around with kind of that chip to say, hey, we've got good football here and don't sleep on us. And so we're trying to build that same type of mentality and culture here.
You mentioned that you kind of built your program with some of the core principles that you saw at Youngstown. Did you reach out to Coach Tressel when you got the job for any advice, or has he reached out to you at all since you've been the head coach at
Oh,
Hampton?
yes. I talked to him. I talked to Coach Bowden because I was on that staff at Akron for 7 years. So he gave me some great advice. My high school coach, Coach Tressel. With Coach Tress, we probably talk during the season every week. We talked every week during the season and just some different things that he would see, or hey, make sure you stress this, make sure you talk about this, make sure you see that. So yeah, he's a guy, like I said, Coach Bowden is a guy. A little bit of everybody, Paul Winters, when I was at Wayne State, we played for the D2 national championship there when I was with Paul Winters, Coach Winters. I talked to him on a regular basis, about some things because, just him taking over the program. I was with him at Akron as a GA way back. Then he's the head coach at Wayne State. I got to be a part of that. Talk to him. Who else did I talk to? Coach Haycock, he's the DC at Iowa, kind of ran some things by him. So all those guys that I kind of got a chance to see and mentored me, at some point I kind of got a little bit of all of them kind of and made it my own.
Coach, the last question here. It's been since 2006 since Hampton has won a conference title, been to the FCS playoffs. The CAA, you guys are trending upwards in terms of ranking this conference. You guys competed with some of the top teams last year. How far off do you think this program is from consistently being one of the top programs in the CAA, competing for conference titles and playoff appearances year after year?
You know, I you know, I want to say we're close. There's still some things that we have to establish here. Again, you're going into our second year, um, and so we there's some things we still have to clean up and work. But again, I think we're trending, like you're saying, in the right direction. We're bringing in. I'm super excited about this freshman class that's coming in. There's a lot of great talent that'll be here. The guys that are here, a good core of the guys that are here now, played, and that makes a big factor when guys have played. So, we're there's still little things here that we've got to clean up and fix, but I do like the direction that we're going. You see guys, and like I said, with starting tomorrow with spring ball, you see guys that are excited about where we're going. We got some new coaches on the staff and some new ideas, and but we're going to be able to run the football. We will always take pride in running the football. But I am excited in the talent that we're bringing in. I think that's what we're excited about as a staff is that talent. It's a different talent that we're starting to bring in here. And again, you gotta have those type of the guys if you want to get to that next tier. You know, the guys that you bring in got to be those guys.
Absolutely, coach. Well, thank you so much, coach, for making time to jump on the show, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you at CAA Media Day. Hopefully, make it up to Hampton for a game this
That's
year, coach.
great.
Last thing, anything you want to say to the Hampton fans tuning in?
Man, come and support. It's been awesome. We love the energy. Um, Keep it coming. The community has been great. And don't forget, we're the real HU.
I love it, coach. Thank you so much again, guys. Make sure to go follow Coach Boykin on all social media. Make sure to follow all the athletic accounts on for Hampton football and the rest of their athletics. But for Coach Trenton Boykin, for myself, for the Blue Bloods FCS Football Central on SI, we are out for right now.